Welcome back to another video on Gearsaw Studios, and today I'm going to be showing you how to build yourself an archaeology dig site. So that way, you have an area where you can safely excavate trail ruins and keep it stylish even after the job is done. However, before I begin, remember, please like and subscribe, and without further ado, onto the tutorial. First off, I recommend you build this around trail ruins, but that is optional. My second choice would be putting this in a desert. And then, if it's in a desert, use a variety of sandstones and terracottas. Otherwise, use terracottas and normal stones. Perhaps deep slate and blackstone included, depending on where it is. You could even make another version, but of course, that's on you if you want to build that. Then, build yourself a nice little area for shelter like this using these blocks right here. Dark oak, spruce, oak, granite, stuff like that. And then we will have a campsite nearby where, sleeping quarters are and such. Use colorful wools for that. Blue, yellow, red, or since it's 4th of July on uploading this, red, white, and blue. From here, you just build yourself this shelter thing. Even though this roof cost a ton, it does look amazing, so I would use it. And make sure that these are double thick when you're done, so that way this area looks more thin and less, thick and actual hard to move stuff. Because this is supposed to look like a temporary structure in real life. Under this area we have here, build a chair like I use in my intros. Because although, I typically do it to make it, this would be an awkward intro, chairs more natural. I'd recommend building them because this could be a meeting site of sorts under this roof. And, the tents are kind of too small for this. Therefore, place down a cartography table and then dark oak around it and perhaps include more than just 2 chairs. We could include 3, 4, make it even a whole banquet table. But if you have an odd number of blocks here, then try to make it symmetrical. You might even want to elongate the build in order to make it an odd number on this side to make it work. From here, we can see we have a simple table here, cartography table. Anytime you have a dark oak table, always include one of these in the middle. But our next step is having some place to display the pots from the archaeology, because all archaeology structures give you a pottery shard of one thing or another. And yes, I know they're spelled with an E, it's still pronounced shard. But what you want to do is make tiny little structures like this, and then as you do your trail ruin structure, or if you've already excavated something, you can simply, just make the pots and put them on here. You can display what you've gotten from the build and make it look like some actual archaeologying is taking place. So, build some of these, and perhaps even build a second one of this kind of roof structure in order to give it a nice little shelter area. So that way, it doesn't get struck by lightning or anything. With a new area for our pots, we can see, these are pretty valuable considering they're all decorated. And any spare ones or sniffer eggs can go in item frames on some sort of project board. Not to mention, you could also do chests instead over here. Perhaps, brushes and other archaeology equipment could be in there, but typically if you want to make a good build, you do not need to fill up all the chests unless it's, adventure. Then, once you have these 2 structures set up, you need to start making the actual dig site. And this is a lot of excavating. Fortunately, if you're in a desert, efficiency 4 diamond shovels will instantly mine sand. Not to mention, you typically need a lot of glass for things. So, start digging, and then we can build our structure inside here. Make it about 6 blocks deep. Pit successfully dug out. We need a way to get in and out. Start by placing down some dark oak. Yet again, you may notice I'm going to be using this a lot, biological inability to not use dark oak. But anyways, start off with a platform or 2, and then add some stairs, or you can use oak trap doors to act as a ladder set, because of course you can place ladders on those. So get yourself these ladders, and then, start placing them like this. And, brain fart moment, but take a look. Perfectly functional. Do this a couple of times to get an in and out section, some fences or granite walls to hold it up, and then it'll look like some people have been regularly getting in and out of this. Perhaps a couple of pots to decorate the place too. With this area ready to be archaeologied, we now need some things to be archaeologied. Which means start building some basic houses down here. Don't make them, super fabulous or anything. I mean, these are supposed to be ancient and worn down. But I recommend making them real structures, even if they're low quality first. So something like this. Build it into the wall or something. As if this thing has not been fully excavated yet. And because, it's all worn down, you can't have perfect rooms like this. So that means you need to include a little bit of sand, no more doors, a lot of stairs and slabs to make it look all broken down. But start off with real structures before doing that. And get creative with them. Some of them can even be real tall like this, poking out of the pit. Or some of them are still buried, so that way you can make a big one that's, still being unearthed. Some basic structures have been added, some presumably graves, some pots here. Make sure that they aren't floating. I'm not entirely sure how I left that one floating. But we have some towers, a broken house, the entrance to a large building, but it's completely encased in sand. Overall, it's looking pretty decent. But the important thing is that these archaeology sites should be work in progresses, so that way there's a justification for these structures being here. So don't build an entire city, build maybe a building or two, and then have the rest covered by sand. But anyways, you want to remove all the sandstone from the inside, because too deep, and then smoothen out some of the sandy sides, so that way it looks like there's an active excavation work here, rather than just a big box. As you do this, the build will start looking more and more complete, and then we can move on to the final part, building a small campsite. Now, I've added a couple extra details, such as the pathing here. Of course, the sides are now nice and smoothed out to make it look more like an actual dig site work in progress. And although there are a disproportionately high amount of pots here compared to how much has been dug out of presumably a larger area, still, this dig site is more or less complete. But that does not mean the rest of it is. We still need to build a campsite, because whoever's working here is not going to be living in, a house that has been completely sanded in. So, you start off by placing down a campfire or something that people can surround. So, just a campfire. I'd recommend putting a hay bale under it. You can place multiple of them if need be. And then, what you want to do is place down a couple fences up like this. Although 3 might seem like a good amount, well, it is a decent amount. Remember that here's how the slope is going to go for these individual tents. It's going to start at the very top there, but you can see it gets, smaller. And if you make it taller, then you can fit more things in one tent. So consider that for your sizing. But don't make it any smaller than this, otherwise your tent will be completely inaccessible. This campsite is now, complete. We can see we have beds inside each tent, brushes, a map of the area, the one person who explores rather than actually dig out the place. A first aid tent, notice it's 1 block taller, which means we can fit more things in here and have a nice design on it. It looks like a medical tent. In the middle, cobblestone slabs. Under one of these, we can see we have hay. The rest of them have cobblestone, which makes, a lot of smoke down there and more, well, it's taller here, but there's less of it, so it's more natural. Then some paths down inside this thing, make it look like it's part of the city that's going to be dug up. And we also have some boxes here. Very simple. You just place down some planks and then put a darker slab on top. And then turtle eggs on this table, because we can't have sniffer eggs because they'll automatically hatch no matter what. But otherwise, I'd call this build complete. It's a nice area for excavating trail ruins, or if you've built your own thing, this looks really nice. If you have a nice desert city nearby, this can be something on the outskirts that's more interesting to see. So I'd highly recommend building it if you have a barren desert that you want to fill up with stuff. And with that, it's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video, remember, please like and subscribe, it really helps me out. Also, since I still have mono, the delivery isn't nearly as good as usual, but the next video should be completely back to normal with better audio quality. So either way, enjoy the rest of your day. Gearsaw out.